He was
This meeting is being recorded.
so he is a part of our BIT alumni group, and post BIT he did his masters in PhD in computer science as well. You can understand the kind of hunger he had in that era to do a PhD in computer science. And he worked for almost 15 years in IBM, and then he moved to Google, where he has been there for close to 14, 15 years now, right? And one thing that distinguishes our guest a bit from the other guests we have had till now, we have quite often heard in some car ads before earlier, more car per car, right? So Mr. Rama Govindaraju is someone who is more BITian per BITian because he grew up in BIT. He stayed in the campus there. He grew up in BIT. So before wasting any further time, let's pass it on to him and hear from him first, the first section, which is where we will want to know about his academic and professional journey and a bit about how he felt at BIT at the start of his life. Rama sir, over to you.
Thanks very much, Vineet and Ramesh, for the very kind introduction. Very flattering indeed. Thanks very much for the opportunity to meet and engage with other BIT alumni. Always a pleasure. I don't think I would classify myself as a stalwart by any means. I don't see myself that way. I think I certainly have had fairly rewarding and rich experience in my career, academic and industry-wide. And that experience, I think, is what I would like to share. Right? I think that is what is very, very important to understand. So, I don't have very many slides, but I did prepare 2 slides to guide us through the first part of the discussion, just as my journey. And like Vineet mentioned, I was born in Ranchi in the SDA hospital, and I grew up in the campus. So my first 22 years of my life was in the campus. So including the 4 years that I spent as a student at BIT Mesra. A very rich experience there also. I would say the campus life was very, very rewarding. Made some excellent friends. There was a community where everyone knew everyone else. Everyone helped each other out. And it was a very serene environment, as you all must have experienced, with lots of facilities for sports and games, and very clean air that you breathe there, not very much traffic. So overall, very, very rich experience there. I spent my first, let me just do a presentation of the 2 slides. I promise I won't bore you with the slides, but they'll just guide the discussion here. I'll just share the screen if you give me a minute.
Rama sir, you are on mute, I guess. You need to unmute yourself.
Rama, you are on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you are audible now. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so it's not allowing me to present. I think it goes mute automatically. Anyway, what I was saying is I was born in the SDA hospital near Bariatu, which is about halfway to town from BIT Mesra. And the early part of my life was all in BIT Mesra. I studied in St. Xavier's School, Ranchi, in Doranda, where I spent roughly 11 years from 1972 to 1982. So from kindergarten through to 10th grade was in St. Xavier's, Doranda. And then +2 was in St. Xavier's College in Ranchi. And after that, spent 4 years at BIT Mesra. My father was a professor there in civil engineering, and he's spent 42 years serving BIT from 1959 through 2001. And he, if you visit BIT and you've spent time there, it's very hard to miss what he has accomplished there. If you have gone to the open air theater, that was built in a record time of about 3 months. The roof was not done by that time. It was just covered with a shamiana at the time. But it was done in 3 months in preparation for the Silver Jubilee in 1982, I think. And so the design of all the structures there was done by my father. Also, the closed auditorium, which is next to the library, was also designed by my father. The R&D building was designed by my father. Many landmarks there that you see were designed, and the design was done for free for BIT as a service. Also, I remember very fondly that before he left BIT, he helped build this temple, the Shiva temple there, the Shiv Mandir, Sri Gauri Shankar Nilayam, was built by him by putting his entire retirement savings into it. The other buildings that he designed were funded by Birlas, but he did for free. But this temple, he did collect money from many, but 90+% of the expenses were borne by him. And he has very, very fond memories of helping reconstruct that temple. And whenever we go, we always have very fond memories of visiting that. So anyone who goes back to BIT, please do visit. It was completed, I think, in 97 or 98. And we went back there in 2014 to do the Kumbhabhishekam, which has to be done every 14 years, but we got delayed a little. So that's a brief history of before I joined BIT Mesra as a student. And so the difference between other students and me is, of course, I did not stay in a hostel. And I missed out, and I think the kind of camaraderie that gets created when you are staying in the hostel with your peers and students and friends, the kind of chemistry you generate and the kind of relationships you build is often far stronger. And if I were to do it again, I would probably want that I not stay at home with my parents and actually stay in the hostel. So that is, I think, one of the things that if I were to do it again, I would do it differently. Mainly to sort of realize that experience, which I think is very, very important. But at that time, that was just not a possibility. I don't think my father could have afforded it. We were 6 siblings, 5 brothers and 1 sister. So he had a lot to handle in terms of, financially supporting our education and what have you. There were tough times. There was no question that it was a very difficult time. But still, I do remember my father saying often that the 2 reasons why he does not switch to another job, which would probably pay him far more, and there were many such offers that he got. One is he truly enjoyed teaching. He truly enjoyed, helping students and being what he thought was an effective teacher, setting the kind of example that he thought was very useful in shaping careers, and he found it very rewarding, despite the financial remuneration not being what he could have easily got elsewhere, and he had many such offers. And the second was he didn't want to disrupt our education. He thought Xavier School was very good to us, and he had a very good relationship with the administration at Xavier School, which allowed us to study for much less than what other students were paying. So those are the 2 reasons why he stayed, and he also liked the campus environment. So what he taught me there is that financial aspects are not what should dominate your decision making. And I think that has actually been very remarkable in the choices that I have made also, keeping that in mind. So that was a quick thing. And so in BIT, as a student, I had some special constraints, as you can imagine. I couldn't
Right.
sort of indulge in the kind of Havawazi, Ullargiri, and all that stuff, at least not openly, as all the other students could. And I think that is a challenge because most of the faculty knew me personally, and they knew my parents, and I was very scared of my dad. My father passed away in 2018, but I'm still scared of him, right? I mean, I still sort of feel his presence.
Yeah.
I
So
just,
you had the pressure to be the perennial good boy kind of
yeah,
in
yeah,
front
yeah.
of
I couldn't
everybody
be caught in
else.
any trouble. Yeah, yeah. That
Yeah.
was a big challenge.
Hmm.
So that sort of always was in the back of my mind that I don't want to get in trouble with my dad. He's very tough often, and I didn't want to be on his tougher side here. So I
Okay.
had to sort of control what I could or couldn't do. That is a little bit of sort of a downside. There were many upsides. Upsides was I didn't have to undergo any ragging, which I'm not sure is an upside sometimes, because I think going through a ragging experience is also important
Right.
to sort of build the kind of humility that it brings about, and the camaraderie with your friends and seniors is also an experience. I also had, a lot of flexibility that I got because my father was there to help me out.
Mhm.
And there were many such occasions where he did step in to help me. So there are pluses and minuses, but something to think about here. So I took computer science mainly because at that time the department was just starting, and there were like 3 or 4 faculty. It wasn't like a big department. And but what fascinated me was that my elder brother was also in computer science. He was in IIT Kharagpur. He was 2 years older to me. And when he came for his summer vacation and what have you, he would bring books, and I would briefly chat with him as to what all this is all about. It was scary at that time. I had never even sat in front of a computer when I joined BIT Mesra. So the first time I sat in front of the computer was in 1985, maybe, I think, in front of the PDP-11, which was a large machine room and what have you. And of course, now, a small cell phone has more computing power than the PDP-11 at that time.
Right.
But what fascinated me was what I thought was possible. And I always liked mathematics. And my elder brother used to keep telling me that, computer science is a lot about mathematics reframed differently, right? And he sort of helped me understand the basics of algorithms and algorithm design and data structures. So very fundamentals, basic fundamentals, he helped me crystallize even before I was a student at BIT. So that fascination is what I think made me select computer science. Many were sort of debating whether that's a good decision or not, because there was no faculty there. There were 3 of them, and 2 of them had a math background transitioning to computer science, and maybe 1 actually had a computer science degree. So a lot of risk in terms of the selection, but one that I think was the right one for me. I think that was the kind of stuff I needed. So I spent most of my time there trying to be the nice kid. Not that I'm not capable of mischief. I'm perfectly capable of a lot of mischief. I've done a lot of mischief, which most folks don't even know. But it was sort of hidden. It was not so obvious to everyone. And I spent a lot of time with my friends, batchmates, playing, bridge late into the night. I would go to the hostel, spend time with my friends there, and spent a lot of time playing tennis. I was in the tennis team for 4 years, all 4 years there. And during my time, we had a very good team. 2 of my other batchmates were also very good tennis players. And then 1 junior, I think P.S. Krishnan joined, Neelkantan joined, I think 3 years later. And we reached the quarterfinals of Inter-University, All India Inter-University, I think 3 times in the 4 years.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and all 3 times we lost to the eventual champions. And I believe in our final year we lost to Delhi University in was it Delhi? Yeah, I think we lost to we lost to Aligarh University, which we lost 3-2, and they went up to be the eventual champions that year. So those were very good experiences. A lot of time on the tennis courts, a lot of time hanging around with my friends, a lot of time, playing bridge, which was sort of something I enjoyed very much. And whatever time was left, a little bit in academics and keeping up with coursework was the time I spent there. So that's, I think, after that, I sort of was determined to become a faculty. So I wanted to be a professor. Sort of even in my undergrad, I realized I also enjoyed teaching just like my father. And I really wanted to be a professor, and that's what motivated me to study for masters and PhD. So when I joined I joined first University of Pittsburgh, and I spent 1 semester there because that's the only place I got a scholarship. And but as I was doing my first semester at Pittsburgh, folks at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute reached out to me saying, hey, we have a scholarship for you if you could join. So 1 semester after that, I joined Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in Troy, New York. Compared to University of Pittsburgh, it's a better university. May not be some university that most of you have heard, but I'm sure you all remember Robert Resnick from Resnick and Halliday.
Right.
For JEE and all the entrance exams, you have to grind through that. So Robert Resnick was from RPI, and by the way, David Halliday is from University of Pittsburgh. So I sort of attended both universities where these two were faculty.
Nice.
And I also remember actually attending one of Robert Resnick's courses when he was teaching particle physics. So it was a very nice lecture, but a lot of it went over my head, which was not very unusual at the time. So at RPI, I had a very good time there. The coursework was very rewarding. And then I started on my PhD, and before that, at that time, before you could join a PhD, you have to pass the qualifying exam, PhD qualifying exam. And that used to be pretty tough, and with a pass percentage of about 20%.
Okay.
Right. So usually every semester, there would be about 40 or 50 students taking the exam, and maybe 8 to 10 would pass. So we had to slog. That was, I remember, a fairly long slog. But one thing I think BIT taught us very well is, the trick to doing well in exams is not that you're a master in the subject, but that you have sort of seen the question papers from previous years, you have gone through them, you've also gone through, what each teacher sort of favors and figures out where to sort of look at things and what have you. So if you study the patterns and understand how to prepare, you will do well in exams. It's not a statement of whether you actually understand the subject or not. So similar approach I took at RPI. And so then midway through my preparation, when I was taking the practice exams, I realized this technique is not working. It doesn't sort of transition. It transitioned for some aspects. There were 4 exams I had to take. For 2 of them, I could see that the questions change, but they don't change a whole lot. But the other 2, I was in the practice exams, I was just not doing well because the pattern was completely different. It was nothing to do with, have you gotten the chotha right? The diamond guide, right? Right. So the diamond guide was a joke that, in BIT also the professors would prescribe foreign textbooks, foreign authors, Millman Halicas, Introduction to Electronics or something. You open that book, you can't understand a word there. And but that actually the professor is following an Indian author's book, Theraja or somebody. So if you prepare Theraja, you'll do well in the exams.
Oh, that's amazing.
So Theraja solved examples. If you've gone through, it's hard for you to miss out, right? So the problem will be if you try to read from Milliman Halicus, you'll be reading forever. You'll never understand anything, right? So this was something that then I learned for the other two exams that I was not doing well in the practice exams. Was it needed a complete different approach. It required you to read every word in the chapter of the book, understand it, because the questions were very nuanced. So later on, I felt that that is how we should have studied all subjects, and even BIT probably I should have done that, right? That would have really been a true learning experience instead of preparing for the exam.
Right.
So I did clear the qualifying exam, which was a big relief. And midway through my PhD, I actually had some challenges with my advisor. We had some disagreements, and I was at the point of quitting my PhD.
Oh.
And this was after about two and a half years into my PhD. And so then, my elder brother and elder brother, they came and helped me out. My elder brother actually drove down to, he was at University of Buffalo, State University of New York at Buffalo. He was already a faculty there at the time. So he had finished his PhD and he was faculty there. So he came, dropped by and said, don't quit. These things happen. And then in retrospect, I wouldn't say that it was all my advisor's fault. It was certainly, I contributed to some of the difficulties that came about. Huge learning experience, I would say. And then there was another professor, Professor Murthy, who sort of said, don't give up, let me help you. And so I switched advisors midway.
Right.
And that delayed my PhD by easily a little more than a year and a half. But I think, overall, I did complete my PhD there, and in the end of '94. And
Rama sir, sorry to interrupt. We are running short of time here. So if you could just give the audience a bit of an idea about your IBM experience and the experience at Google that you've gone through in probably the next 5 minutes. Then after that, we can open it up for the audience questions related to your academic and professional life. I'm so sorry to interrupt. We are really having fun. And if you look at the chat window, Rama sir, people are like really loving what you're saying. They're really enjoying your experiences, what you've gone through.
Sure, I'll do that. Please bear with me because I just flew in today morning from US, so I'm jet lagged a little bit, but I'll try and speed up. So, I wanted to be a faculty member, but I didn't get very good university position options, mainly because my research wasn't very strong. And my experience, teaching experience, I was teaching at RPI also, which was very good. And from that teaching, one of the students I was teaching was at IBM. He was working there, but he was part-time taking courses. So he offered me a job. And then, so I joined IBM at the time thinking I'll beef up my resume and apply again, which I never did after that. But at IBM, I think the first 4 years were a fantastic learning experience. I got paired up in a team. There were 2 people from IBM Research and 2 people from the Power Parallel Systems Lab. So this lab was building supercomputers for all the national labs and many of the defense agencies and big companies. And during that first 4-year period, these 4 engineers that I was working with took me under their wing for whatever reason, and they taught me a lot. I mean, I learned far more in that than in my 4 years of PhD there. So in 1 year, I think I learned far more. And slowly, my confidence grew in what I could do. And whenever I got into trouble, I would reach out to them. And so slowly, my career advanced very fast at IBM. Mainly because of these 4 engineers. But what happened is one of them passed away due to cancer. And then the other 3 actually left one by one. And so suddenly now I was in the lab without anyone that could guide me. But everyone was looking to me for guidance because they thought somehow I knew everything or what have you. So in very quick time, I became the software lead for the supercomputer lab for IBM. And then I was engaging with all the national labs, in Lawrence Livermore and what have you, and Los Alamos and Sandia and Pacific Northwest National Labs. So I got to engage with the customers and how they were using it, what they were using it for, how to build a pipeline of supercomputers. And so we were building supercomputers, which were the fastest supercomputers at that time, right? And that taught me a lot. But one thing I noted is we were doing the same kind of stuff, slightly only incrementally. And I was not learning new stuff very much. And one of the folks that had sort of helped me in the first 4 years had moved to Google. And he said, hey, Google is starting to build data centers and massively parallel and distributed systems. They need engineers with your skills. Are you interested? And my career at IBM at that time was in very fast rise. And I said, why do I want to change? And my wife and sons loved the place in Poughkeepsie, New York. And we sort of debated quite a bit. And then my friend sort of circulated my resume within Google. And the next time I was at Lawrence Livermore National Labs, the lab director, Barton Sano, showed up and said, hey, let's go for dinner. And so he took me for dinner and said, we want to build this infrastructure and we want to build a world-class team here. You have the kind of skills that we need. Why don't you join? And I said, no, I'm not so keen. I'm sort of doing okay. I'm on cruise control here at IBM. Why do I want to change that? So then the next day they actually said, okay, please delay your trip back home. Let's have dinner and we'll introduce to some other folks. And so during dinner, they invited Ken Thompson, Dennis Ritchie, then Rob Pike. And these are sort of stalwarts of computer science. We have read their books and sort of learned what we have. And they were sort of very natural folks. They were just as though they have been your friend forever. They didn't have any air of, I'm the Einstein of computer science or what have you, none of that. And then they also introduced me to Sanjay Hemawat and Jeff Dean, who were sort of already fellows at that time in 2006, at Google, building some of the best infrastructure. We had read their papers. We said, wow, what is awesome infrastructure here. And that sort of changed me. And I said, if I get an opportunity to work with engineers like this, I would be stupid not to take it, right? So I did make the jump after much deliberation in 2007 to Google and joined the platforms and systems infrastructure team there. And there, again, I worked on some projects on networking and which were very interesting. But what I found is the quality of engineers at Google were at a completely different scale. At IBM, I used to think I'm one of the smartest guys. I went to Google, I felt, I'm in the bottom 20 here. And by the way, I'm still at the bottom 20, and I'm enjoying it tremendously.
Interesting.
So in 2014, I think they asked me to lead a team to become a manager and sort of spend. So managers at Google are also very technical, so they have to stay technical. And for the first 9 months or so, I didn't quite enjoy the work very much as a manager. I was about to quit, and I was having actually, of the 4 engineers, I was having some personality conflicts with 2 of them. Okay. So I said, this is not interesting to me. I was about to give up when the 2 folks that were giving me trouble left. And then 2 others joined that were just absolutely awesome. And that was the time when Google was also starting to build, machine learning was becoming very important, and they wanted to build specialized systems for machine learning. And Google started to build the tensor processing unit. So these guys who joined helped start that. And, I found engaging with them extremely invigorating. They were just awesome. I learned a ton from them. And lo and behold, slowly in 2017, machine learning infrastructure became the most important thing for Google. And so my team grew from 4 engineers to about 10 engineers in 2016 to now about 130. And by end of this year, we'll be probably at 180 or so. So it's been a phenomenally, interesting experience here. A lot of learning, working with. So one thing I realized is that, very hard problems and very good engineers is a fantastic combination. So if you have very good engineers, but you don't have hard problems, the good engineers will leave. If you have very hard problems, but not so good engineers, the problems will not get solved.
Right.
But if you have very hard problems and very good engineers, miracles can happen. Right. And that experience of building things that no one thought possible or impossible or what have you is what really makes you excited. And Vineet, you mentioned the most exciting part about working at Google is you impact billions of people. Right. Everyone around you is using your products. You get to see how you're influencing that or enabling that. Is truly a rewarding experience. So I'll stop here. I know I've gone way more than the allotted time, but I'll want to have questions here.
People are loving it. That's what we are hearing in the chat window and the messages I've been getting directly, Rama sir. So thank you so much for sharing about your a bit about your personal, academic, and your work life. So it is fairly safe to say that this is like obviously a big credit goes to your hard work and the opportunities that you made most out of, but it's also genetic in nature, like and the way you talked about your father, your elder brothers, and all. So it's wonderful to hear that. And before we proceed to the next part, where we will hear from Rama sir about what his viewpoints about the industry, overall economy, where does he think Google will go, the entire industry, what will be the focus areas in the next few years. I would request the audience members to drop their questions if they have any regarding the academic and the professional journey that we have heard from Rama sir till now. So Rama sir, Abhishek says your journey is full of inspiration and learning. This is from the chat window. Guys, we would want to hear your questions. Thank you so much for sharing your feelings that you really love this. That's the idea behind having a show like this. But if you have any queries, we would love to have them. Okay,
It'll be more fun if there are questions.
Yeah. So gentleman called Shushant has asked that L4 software engineer at ADS MTV, how important is master's degree for reaching higher leadership levels at Google?
It can help, but it's not required. So I know engineers who just have a bachelor's, and they are no less after a couple of years than the engineers that come in for masters after masters. So it's what you make of your work experience. Learning at work, it has to be a constant exercise. The tech industry moves very fast. If you're doing the same thing over and over again, you're not going to advance. If you're constantly building new skills, working on projects that are enhancing your skills and increasing your confidence, then the degrees don't matter, right? In my team of about 130, I think roughly half of them have PhDs, about a quarter of them have masters, a quarter of them have just bachelors. There's at least one engineer that does not have an undergrad degree; it's just a high school grad. And I don't see anything that differentiates them very much. The only differentiation I would say is, the folks that have PhD have more appetite for exploration and risk taking, but not by much. Even the one that just has a high school graduate has shown tremendous promise and he can keep up with the 5 folks with a PhD, right? And he can sort of hold his own. So degrees are not critical. They help, but they're not critical.
Right. So thank you, Rama sir. We'll go to the next question, which comes from Richie Mittal sir. So Richie Mittal sir, if you can unmute yourself. Yes, please, sir.
Yeah,
Go
thank
ahead.
you. Thank you, Rajiv, and thank you, Rama. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So thank you, Rama. Very inspirational and good to hear so many stories about college days and the life we had. I think what we did in college, we always keep on missing it. So, Rama, I have a very quick question, and that's for the next generation, actually. So, just to give an example, my son, he is in the final year now, and he's doing computer science. So, what will you advise him to do? I think which will help others also.
So I think it's very important to enjoy your work. If you're not enjoying your work, you need to do something different, because you'll be doing it every day for the next 35, 40 years. So I think very often what I see is engineers that are not having fun or not doing well are because they're not enjoying their work. They hate their work, or they just don't have the passion for that kind of work. So finding your passion is very important. And also, since he's in school, I'll tell him what I wish I had thought of is grades does not mean, is any reflection on your capabilities, right? Grades means you're a good exam taker. If you're good grades means you're a good exam taker. Does not mean you have the skills that are needed for the future. So perhaps investing in the skills needed for the future is very, very important, right? So always seek out coursework or job opportunities that will constantly enhance your skills, not apply the skills you already know. So if you're only applying skills you already know, you're not growing. And so that is, I think, the two things to remember: have passion for what you do, or find your passion, and then constantly work on expanding your skills.
Thank you, Rama. I'm going to convey this message to him. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Richi sir. Thank you, Rama sir, for answering this. And we could see the shades of, your passion, earlier passion about being a teacher and a professor coming out when you were explaining this answer, specifically when Richi sir mentioned it's for a youngster, right? So that's nice. We are giving you that opportunity as well to show your shades of what kind of teacher you could have been. Okay, so we are getting a lot of questions, Rama sir, but unfortunately, because of lack of time, we'll have to move on to the next section. If you would, so please, we can, since we are recording this, we can collect the questions from the chat and then share it separately with you. And in case you can guide these people, it would be extremely helpful.
Yeah, we can put in a shared doc, and then I can answer, and then we can keep that current and update it also and share with everybody.
Absolutely. Great, we'll do that. So now we move to the next part of the show where Rama sir will talk about what specifically he thinks the industry, economy, the company Google, overall where things would go in the next few years. So Rama sir, over to you.
I think in the computer industry, some trends are fairly clear, right? One trend is the transition to cloud is accelerating. I think the pandemic also helped push the accelerator down further. So all companies are sort of realizing that there's efficiencies to be gained by transitioning to the cloud in terms of cost, in terms of speed of deployment, in terms of speed of scale, and what have you. So cloud transition is rapidly growing. The second is that AI and machine learning have proven to be very effective in solving some of the grand challenge problems that we have faced in the past. So many of the grand challenge problems which previously we could not solve through algorithmic means or the known techniques, we have found that if you have good ground truth data and lots of it, deep learning in particular has been very effective in solving many of these problems. And their applications will soon multiply, not just for the natural language processing like understanding speech or stuff like that we are now already familiar with, but for applications in healthcare, right, where you'll see the ability to more accurately diagnose, the ability to more effectively scale diagnosis work, ability to assist physicians and surgeons in more precision medicine. Huge amount of activity underway and several breakthroughs that are already starting to appear. I'll just talk a couple that you can sort of research online on diabetic retinopathy, which is very, very hard for even the best of physicians to be able to accurately diagnose and treat. So deep learning methods have proven to be extremely successful there. So we're going to see a lot of these kind of applications and services emerge as a result of machine learning and AI becoming mainstream. Also in fighting climate change, in new drug discovery, in genome sequencing and understanding the human anatomy further, and really advancing the state of the art in many of these very hard areas. You'll also see it being applied to more civic issues like like smart cities or what have you, with traffic congestion, traffic engineering, all these will start to leverage more computing capability to solve these more holistically and develop a more sharing economy where ride share and better use of roads, better use of various options of reaching from point A to point B dynamically and adapting to the current situation. All these will become very, very popular down the road. So anyone that is interested in these kind of problems, the scope for you to make an impact is absolutely huge, right? So I think the industry is treading this way. If you look at what students are studying in grad school and what have the courses that are being offered and the attendance in some of these courses, these are telling signs. Andrew Ng, who's faculty at Stanford, who teaches machine learning, was telling me he spent 1 year at Google, I think in 2014 or so, 2015. So over lunch, he was saying that in 2007, when he started this course, there were only 10 students. And he got a letter from the dean saying, if the enrollment drops below 8, they'll have to cancel the course. So he was a little worried. So the first step made it easy so people don't drop out of the course. But 2 years later, he had 800 students for the same course, 25 TAs to assist him with that course. Amazing. So that itself in 2007, 2008 was a telling sign that the industry is recognizing a huge gap in skills. And that's just been multiplying. So these are just examples that that the trend is very clear. The other trend that we probably don't realize as users is the computing industry faces tremendous challenges. You've heard of chip shortage and what have you, because there's only 4 semiconductor manufacturing centers in the world. It's Global Foundries, it's Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Center, it's Intel and Samsung. That's it. And if one of them goes down or has a supply chain problem, it impacts the entire industry. The other challenge in the semiconductor space is that improvements in semiconductor technology have hit their limit. We're already at 5 nanometers. You really can't go any lower and improve. And the reliability of these systems have started to become a challenge. So in pure computer science and computer architecture area, this is a serious concern, right? But these are problems that I think will get solved and will get more focused down the road.
Okay, fine. So thank you so much, Rama sir, for providing us your viewpoint and idea, thoughts about where we will be headed going forward. So guys, in case you have any queries related to this particular aspect of the show, then we would love to have Rama sir's viewpoint on that.
It's more fun when there are questions.
Okay, so we had some questions which were like, in the first part, probably this is something we can cover here as well. Can you share some light on development of brain rank algorithm? This has been asked by a gentleman called Ajay Chaudhary.
Can you say more? Do you mean rank brain for search results, or what do you mean here?
Ajay?
Yeah, go on.
Yes, I think that's what he means.
Yeah, so that's another example of using AI and machine learning to improve search results. So rank brain, I don't know if it's published, so I'll be a little careful of what I say here, is the ability to use natural language processing and word embeddings to better understand the intent of the user. And there are sort of relationships that you can infer, which you and I as normal human beings would often miss. But only when it's pointed out to you, you'll realize, oh, this was very important. And that really helps improve the search quality results. And we've seen huge application of it. And Google's enablement of tensor processing unit has really helped this, because you need these answers in real time. So rank brain has been very, very effective in improving the search results and search quality.
Yeah, thank you. I configured the search engine for many customers, but I'd never been close to what Google has been able to provide the results. So I was curious about how things work at the back end of Google.
Yeah, that is a very long discussion we can have. I don't think it's a short answer. Many engineering hours and years of effort have gone into developing it. But there's enough published material also, which could be a good starting point there.
Thank you, sir. We have another question. We don't know the name of this particular gentleman or lady. It just says Zoom user. Is the hype along the lines of Web3 justified, or is it just a bubble? What are enterprises like Google doing towards it?
I'm not sure. It's not an area I follow very much. When the user says Web3, I'm guessing he sort of is implying, HTML5 and the standards process there, and sort of enabling more rich media experience for the web. If that is what he means, it's not a hype. If he means something else, then I need to understand what he means by Web3 there.
Okay, we might go to some other question. Any other questions, guys?
Hello, sir.
Yes, Kumar, go ahead.
Sir, I just wanted to ask, first, it's an honor to meet you, and it's a great pleasure to have you. My question is that what do you think about blockchain and the way it's developing and its use in the current new scenarios? Everything is becoming peer-to-peer, including cryptos and everything. They are kind of trying to replace the centralized banking, and also in normal technologies. Is Google working on it?
Yeah, actually, now I understand what you mean by Web3. Thank you. So please ignore my previous answer. Yes, blockchains are very important, and they are a mechanism to ensure security in transactions. These are sort of, so there's a new vice president at Google, the person that used to run Google Ads, Shiv Kumar Venkatraman, is now leading the Google blockchain effort. Now, blockchain is a sort of new technology that is emerging based on what is called zero knowledge proofs. So zero knowledge proofs are a little tricky to understand, but if you think about it, if I want to convince you of something, I do that without revealing anything about the secrets that I control, right? So it's zero knowledge in the sense that you can trust that I have accurate information that I'm giving you, but you learn nothing from that transaction. And that is what the zero knowledge means here. So you get no knowledge of how I'm operating, what I'm operating. But you can then, with your interaction with me, you can trust that whatever you're getting from me is actually accurate. Now, this is sort of a very high level sketch of what zero knowledge proofs are and the foundations for blockchain. But those that are interested, there are some very good videos on YouTube. I would encourage this one by a professor at UCLA who has, explanation of zero knowledge proofs and their application to, cryptocurrency and cryptography. It's about a 20-minute video where he explains it to a high school student, undergrad, college student, a graduate student, and a professor. So he does this in 20 minutes. I encourage you to search for, zero knowledge proofs and UCLA. You'll probably find it in YouTube. A very good explanation of the foundations of what this trust mechanism is and how is it verified. There's deep theory behind it, which is based on PCP. PCP stands for probabilistically checkable proofs. And what it shows is that very high confidence, you are getting the right answer. But in getting the right answer, you are not getting any additional information as to how that answer was arrived at, right? So, and that is very important in cryptocurrency and when you're having transactions to make sure they are safe, right? So, yeah, this is becoming very important. And with the war that's going on, Russia wants to trade in rubles. The currency today trade runs in dollars. Many countries don't like it. This is a way of neutralizing all that, right? So, but it requires that everyone believe in it, and it's not sort of very easily explained. So I encourage everyone to sort of check out the UCLA video, which is about 15-20 minutes.
Thank you, sir.
Great. Thank you so much, Rama sir. So, guys, if we don't have any further questions, we can move on to the personal section of the show.
Hello, Rama sir. I wanted to ask one thing. So I am Saujanya and I just passed out from BIT in 2021. And coincidentally, I also studied from St. Xavier's, Toranda. So that's
Awesome.
one similarity. So I did my bachelor's in electrical, but I have an inclination towards computers. Currently, I'm working as a software engineer and I was contemplating my decision to do a master's PhD. Like my parents, also everyone in my family is a professor or a teacher. So I have that inclination towards research. So, but one thing is there that US is very, very, very expensive if I see from my perspective. And then there are other options like I can go to Germany. But one thing with US is that I get to be with very, very smart people. So what would, like, I'm very much confused about this. And what would you say? What should I optimize? Should I look about the money that I'm going to pay or the experience and the knowledge that I'm going to gain? So what would you do if you were in my place?
I'm not sure because there's no one right answer here. It really depends on what your passion is. If you want to be in the academic line, then of course masters and PhD are required. But it's not essential for you to develop the skills that that are needed for the future. So you can learn on the job as long as you select the right company, right projects. You can develop those skills. The key thing to always evaluate is always look at the long term. Short-term costs and stuff like that is short-term thinking. Always evaluate for the long term. Think about the area under the curve that you'll sweep for the long term, and evaluate the cost and returns based on the long-term aspects. And that might help you sort of decide whether you truly want to do this, or are you doing this just because your parents did it, or it'll help you sort of internalize the debate that you need to have on what is the right choice here.
Thank you, Rama sir. So with that, we come to the end of the second section of the show. We now move into the personal section, section 3. Before we go ahead, I will just request Amit Kirbat sir and Atul sir to switch on their cameras. Atul sir, are you there? I haven't seen your name here. If you have joined by some other name, could you please switch on your camera and your microphone? Okay, I'm not too sure if he is there. But anyways, we now move to the personal section of the show. Typically the section which is most loved and enjoyed by the audience. I mean, we keep getting feedback from people who see this show who were not able to attend it directly on Zoom, but this is usually put on YouTube, Rama sir. So they take out the time and watch this show. So typically that's the feedback we get. This is the section that people are most, waiting for. So we'll go ahead with the personal section of the show. Before we go ahead, we actually had two other stalwart guests of the same batch who are very close friends of Rama sir. So Amit Kirbat sir and Atul Kansal sir. Unfortunately, it seems like Atul sir is not here with us. So we will go to Amit sir first. But before that, we'll just do a quick rapid fire of 10 questions with Rama sir about BIT and other aspects of BIT life. Right? So Rama sir, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, so rapid fire question 1. If you had, so since you were born BITian, the home food is out of picture here. If you had a chance to eat only one more meal in BIT, would it be canteen food, hostel food, dhaba food, or bata?
Dhaba.
Dhaba food, okay. Where did you spend more time amongst these places in BIT? The sports complex or the Pia Milan Chowk or the PMC as we used to call it?
Yeah, I think the Pia Milan Chowk, but not for reasons that people go there. It's because that was a hangout place with all my friends there. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So again, the good boy image part remains. Okay, one thing about BIT you can't forget.
The environmental experience there. It always felt it a very serene and very quiet and very relaxed place.
Interesting. One thing about BIT you would want to change.
I think there's a lot that can be changed or should be changed. I'm struggling with, I think the mode of measuring how students are doing and that I think was fairly flawed. I think it focused more on rote learning and preparing for the exam rather than preparing to understand the material.
Right. Interesting. So one technology of today that you wish was available during your time as a student in BIT?
The internet.
Okay. And your favorite subject?
It changed over time, but I think operating systems have to be one.
Okay. Maximum number of proxy attendances that you made in a single class?
Unfortunately, I think that is zero. I was in a constrained environment. You have to realize that my father was a professor, that I really could not risk anything like that.
Interesting. So your nickname in the batch or the most famous nickname of your batch that you remember?
Batch question.
Yeah, I don't remember. I mean, there was, many Ghoda, Ganda, all these were nicknames of very prominent and very good guys. They were just awesome guys. But the one I remember was one of our seniors. His actual name was, I think, Amitava Das or something. Became Amit Das, and then slowly it became Damidas. Right. So I think that somehow stuck to me.
Interesting. And the punishment you faced as a student, which you remember the most? Any punishment that you faced as a student, which you remember the most?
Yeah, I think there were many. I mean, but maybe the ones in school were more informative, where, I, believe it or not, actually tried to forge my dad's signature on a very poor performance and got caught. This was, I think, in 4th or 5th grade. And I still have sort of horror memories, and I sometimes have bad dreams about it. So clearly it was very bad.
Okay. Last question, sir. Who was the most famous Baba of your batch?
There's Om Prakash is obviously the number one. He was OP Baba. He was called OP Baba or Opium Baba. Sort of, you can't miss him. He was famous not just in our batch, with our juniors, with our seniors. He was just famous there.
Great. So we are done with the rapid fire round, and now we move to another guest who is a very close friend of Rama sir. He is a stalwart in his own right. I mean, his academic and professional achievements are no mean achievements either. Just introduce you to the whole team. Amit sir, if you could switch on your camera, please.
Yeah.
So guys, let's welcome Amit Kirbat sir. So Amit Kirbat sir is from the same batch as Rama sir. Currently, he is president and global head of nut ingredient business of Olam International. So Olam International, if you guys know, it's a multi-billion-dollar company with presence in hundreds of countries across the globe. They have supply chain link up with millions of farmers. So Amit sir currently heads the business, which is worth $800 million. So he started his journey in Olam in 1998 from Africa. And then he expanded rapidly. He started taking over operations of multiple countries. And initially, his focus was limited to the global cashew business. But now he's heading the entire nuts ingredient business of Olam. This includes, I mean, just like we discussed about how Rama sir's work impacts all of us every day. So his portfolio includes nuts like almonds, cashews, peanuts, hazelnuts, pistachios, etc. And all these go to consumers or companies or corporates. So if you are having a snack bar with nuts in it, or a non-dairy nut beverage, or an ice cream, or a breakfast cereal, nut spread, all those things, chances are that it has been done by his team, the overall larger team, right? So he's also a member of the management committee of Olam International. Prior to joining Olam International, Amit sir worked in Imperial Chemical Industries as a marketing manager and in BHEL as business development manager. He holds an engineering degree in EC from our college, and he's also an MBA from FMS Delhi. So Amit sir, we wholeheartedly welcome you here, and we would like to hear about your viewpoints about BIT life, how how the interaction with Rama sir was, and other aspects. Please go ahead.
Thanks. Thanks, Vineet. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on your time zone. Hi, Rama.
Hi, Amit.
Good to see you, man. Hi.
Great to see you.
So, I'll give you some interesting anecdotes. One is that Rama gave you some nice logic on why he took computer science. For me, I took electronics because it gave me access to air-conditioned laboratories. Okay. Otherwise, this workshop technology and sheet metal and all, foundry was very, very painful for first 1 year. So that gave me clarity of thought that I should go for electronics or computers. So I thought, let me clarify that, okay. So let me start by saying that I and Rama were quite close in the campus, but I think post-campus, we became more close. Reason being, like Rama mentioned, that he used to stay at his home. We were in the hostel. So, of course, you make better friends in the hostel, right? That is where the life happens. So, but then post-campus, we used to meet very often, and I think we became more close. And some of my top memories of Rama, of course, Rama will mention memories which he thinks are nice and decent. I will also give you decent memories, but the top in my mind are the authentic South Indian food which he used to treat us at his home. Amazing, out of the world. Okay, leave alone North Indian, leave alone mess, leave alone the dhaba and canteen. Authentic homemade South Indian food. It's heaven. It was dream for us. His tennis craze is what the batch remembers till now. His confidence before every quiz. We used to think that maybe he gets the question paper from his dad. Okay, we were not aware that his dad is very strict and he would not give him any clue. But then the confidence was amazing. And Rama, like you just asked him, he was always very excited about giving a proxy, or maybe somebody should give a proxy for him. But then, he was very constrained. All the professors knew him, they knew his voice, they knew his dad. So he had to suffer a lot because of it. Till today, this proxy remains a dream for him. He has not been able, but he was very excited that, what a concept, amazing. Another of his passion was line marrowing. Okay, if we can use that language.
Okay, that's an interesting aspect, sir. That's a very interesting aspect. Yeah.
Yes. So there was a lot of interest we could make out. Even now that interest is there, but the guts and courage was zero at that time. Totally zero. Okay. So, for this you need guts and courage. So at that stage it was not there. And then again, this was because of the constrained environment, right? Whatever he does, his house was just bang behind the guest house in the girls' hostel. So he was actually helpless at that stage. In fact, a lot of people befriended him because of the location of his house. He never realized it. People will come to meet him in the evening, morning, okay, Rama, let's go to the college, good friend. Few years later, Rama realized why they were friends with him. Because they have access to his home, they can walk past that whatever. What do you call it now? The beautiful name you said, Davini?
Pia Milan Chowk. Pia Milan Chowk, sir.
Correct. Yeah. So now, so that was something about BIT. Now moving to post-BIT days, after Rama went to US, he became, at least for me, my go-to guy in terms of every advice. In fact, I would rather ask Rama than ask Google. Okay, the pun is intended here. But for me, anything to do with US, I would have to ask Rama. Google, forget, okay, Rama is also in Google is a different matter, but Rama had all the answers. This is in terms of academics, in terms of traveling in US, etc.
Amit sir, just let me know whenever you want me to project that particular slide.
Yeah. No, I'll come to that. I think we'll do it in
go
the
ahead,
end.
please.
We'll end
sure.
with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then on a personal note, Rama guided my daughter, for her studies in US, and in which subject to do the PhD, from which college to go to, how to choose the job, what should be the criteria, like he explained so nicely, that you should enjoy what you do. So all these are things which Rama helped us, and Rama, thanks a lot for all this. Another point is that Rama takes out time to meet anybody who visits the Bay Area. He is always available. He will arrange some get-togethers. He will call your friends, his friends, at his home. He will take you to a Google tour. Amazing. And his wife is also amazing host. The family is great. And Rama made it a point to come to both the reunions. We had the 25th reunion and 30th reunion. Just imagine somebody coming from Bay Area to Ranchi and to Goa for the reunions. So that was something amazing. And then a few lesser known, last point, Vinny, last few points. Yes, a few lesser known anecdotes. Rama's wife Padma is really the pillar behind him. And she gives him the confidence which you can see on his face. The beauty is that Rama has the guts to call her the high command. In every forum, he will say that my high command told me this, that is why this is happening. And this is a win-win situation, right? He gets the strength, and by saying she's the high command, he has won her heart. So yeah, win-win situation ho gaya iska. So, that is the very small politics which Rama has played in his life. Everything else, he's been very open. By the way, can you guess what time Rama reaches his office in the morning every day? All throughout COVID and even before that?
Probably 8 o'clock, I guess.
Yeah. So between 5:30 and 6 in the morning. Okay. So that is his routine, which he has not mentioned, but I think that is great. And a few personal qualities which I think I have learned from, and I think it's right to point it out at this stage, and which I admire about him, is his tenacity and focus. I think it started from his tennis. It was his passion in the campus. It went up to his PhD, and even today you can see it on his face and the way he answers questions. And the second is his work ethic and hard work. He believes, rightly so, that if you have these two, everything else becomes secondary, and sooner or later, end of the day, you will succeed. Last point, Rama is about no drama, no passion. Everything is face value. What he says is what he does. So thanks, Rama. And I think that's my take on you. I don't know whether you liked it or not. And we can now share some photographs, Vinny.
Sure, sir. I'll just project the photographs for you. So I'll be projecting some photographs on the screen, and we will let Amit sir describe about those photographs. That's what he wanted to do.
Yes. So yes, this, I think, is Rama. This is 92-90. You have to talk more about this. This is you playing tennis in US, right? I don't know whether it is RPI or where.
Yeah, it's RPI. Yeah, it's in the Prospect Park, very close to the university. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had visited Rama during that period. I think I had already joined some company, and I was traveling to US. So that is when I met Rama there. Yeah.
Okay. So we go to the next photo.
Yes. Oh, young fellow. Not bad. This is also same time, right, Rama?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good evening. This is Arjun Guru. So हमको थोड़ा डिनर ऑर्डर करना है.
Somebody is saying something. You're getting some background noise.
रोटी मिलेगा वीट रोटी?
No, I think that's not related to the smartness of Rama in this photo. Yeah.
So can we go to the next photo, please?
Yes.
Amit sir? Yeah.
Yes, please.
Sure.
Yeah, so this is, as I told you, Rama takes people around whenever somebody visits US. He takes them around proudly around the Google campus, entertains, takes you for a nice lunch. So this is again, I think this is the self-drive car behind Rama, and this is the Google campus.
Yes.
And this is our batchmates. Akhil Ranjan Jha and Vivek Arya and Rita Jha. Yeah.
Nice. We go to the next photograph now.
Yes, please.
Sir, Amit sir, if you could just mention the year also where it was taken, if you have some idea, that will probably give the audience a better
Yeah. So
relatability
this
to
one should
money.
be 2015.
Mhm.
This is yeah. So this is near Rama's house. We have a colleague, Vivek Arya. This is his son's birthday. So you can see our so all these are our batchmates: Vivek Arya, Anil Dikshit, myself, Abhijit, Paul Joseph, and Vivek Prasad. This is in Arya's house. I think this is 2015.
Nice.
San Jose. This is Rama's house. Same time, same evening. So Rama, Padma, me, and my wife having nice, amazing South Indian food at Rama's home.
So your taste for the amazing South Indian food that started like way back in BIT still continues like
Yes,
three
yes, yes.
decades later at his home.
Of course,
That's nice.
of course. Yes. So this is, I think, 2017. I was visiting US and I was passing by. So we met in a restaurant called Bombay Restaurant somewhere in Sunnyvale in California. So Rama drove down there. I was passing by. We had a quick lunch. Yeah.
Okay. Right.
So this is Rama. This is the Goa reunion, is it?
Right in Bombay Airport, I think. On the going to a
While
flight
going for the Goa again 2018. Yeah.
But this was the 30-year reunion you said.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, 88 to 2018. Yes.
Nice, nice.
This is same year. That was Bombay departure. This is the hotel in Goa where we had the get together. So you can see Rama, you can see Sridhar, and then the next one who already looks like a Baba is OPM, OP Mishra,
Okay.
OPM Baba. Who's next to me. We have Pratap Banerjee, which Rama said was called Ghoda or is called Ghoda even today, and then Rajiv Mohan. So all these are our batch, of course, because this was the reunion in Goa.
Nice, amazing nicknames. And this is the last photo which you had said.
Yeah. This is okay. So this is in a room in Goa in the reunion. Everybody is drinking. Rama, of course, doesn't drink. So he is standing like a teacher there, like a professor, looking around, and everybody else is enjoying the drinks.
Nice. Wonderful, sir. I mean, I'm pretty sure people would have loved looking at the photographs and enjoyed you rolling back the memories. And we now open it up for the audience for any questions they might have related to the personal aspect of things of Rama sir, Amit Kirbat sir, and their badge, like anything specific to what they did or any memories they would want to know. Please either write in the chat window or unmute yourself and ask the question here.
Hello, Rama sir. This is Kumar again.
Hi, Kumar.
So Rama sir, just to tell you, like currently I'm an international student in US, pursuing masters in computer science at University of Illinois Chicago. So the one thing that I wanted to ask you is like, obviously in a foreign land, everything is new for me, coming and adjusting to it, not having anyone besides you. So how should I progress, and what should I take out of this US journey and the master's journey? What should be my obviously job and everything is there, that is the ultimate goal, and the learning stuff is that, but in general, what should I take out of this journey to US in general? How should I approach my
Kumar, I'm sorry, this is supposed to be the personal section for their batch. But yeah, since you have already asked it, Rama sir, if you can just guide him for a few seconds and then we can go back to
I was asking personal in the sense like even Rama sir came to US. So, I mean, how did he go through that phase? Like the struggle, what was his emotions in that sense?
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I think, in universities, my father used to tell me that always follow the three principles. The three principles are: first is keep good company, second is be regular in your work, and third is make time to have fun. Right? I mean, if you follow these three principles, it's hard to go wrong. Right? But the most important one he would reiterate is keep good company. Right? If you get that right, most other things get right on their own.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir. So, Kumar, I guess your question is answered now?
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Fantastic. Anybody else? Anything personal from the personal aspects of Rama sir, Amit Kirbat sir, their batch, their experiences?
I'll ask a personal question. I'm not sure I'm not sure you talked about, by the way, hello, Rama, sir. My name is Sujit Singh, 9599 batch. I'm very happy to connect with you. I'm not sure you talked about how Sir met with his wife, whether, any like some part of that, if you can share. Thank you.
I didn't quite get your question. Could you repeat the question?
Sujit, I was talking about how you met your better half, your wife. And,
how I met my better half. So my parents and her parents knew each other very well, and we met, and then I mucked up the courage to sort of propose to her, and she graciously accepted, which was awesome. Yeah, thanks very much. I see Professor Dr. Jerath has a question. Thanks, Dr. Jerath, for joining. I would be interested in understanding what is the question. Dr. Jerath, did I see a comment from you?
I think he has dropped off. He might have sent a...
Oh, he was saying more light on your face. So sorry, this is... my setup is not very good here. Sorry about that.
I was just saying that it would be nice for people to see your face maybe a little bit more clearly, if you could. If it's not giving you too much trouble. Neat could have taken care of that.
Is it better now?
I don't know. Ask Vinit.
Yes. Sorry about that. I'm in my parents' house. I just reached today, and here many things are not quite functional anymore, so we have to sort of figure out.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. And thank you, Rama sir, for sharing that personal aspect of life where we understand that is the time once you mustered the courage to propose to ma'am, and that is the time like you accepted her as the high command, as Amit sir quite often pointed out, right?
Yeah, she is the high command, right?
Yeah. Great. So do we have any further questions? In case not, then we will wrap up the show. Great. So I now pass it over again to Ramesh Agrawal sir, who's the president of BITOSA Bangalore, who basically came up with this idea about 7 months back. And the team there at BITOSA Bangalore, we discussed, deliberated, and came up with the nitty-gritties of this concept. So Ramesh sir, if you could please wrap up the show and give the audience an idea about what we are planning to do next. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Vinit, for being such a great host. And of course, Rama sir for being very, very personal and sharing all the insights. It's been really nice. I also know OP sir a little bit. So I completely agree when you say he's the Baba of the batch. When I was in Delhi, I went and met him, and the only question he asked was, "Bolo kya karna hai?" That is the only question he asked. I said, "No, sir, kuch nahi karna, aapse milna aaya tha bas." So I think fantastic batch. Now that I connect, I've met a lot of people from your batch. I think Sangeeta ma'am is also probably from your batch. So I think you guys are a very fun batch, and it is nice to be kind of talking to you and learning. I personally have been very inspired. I used to be in the world of Unix and in the big computing space for a while ago, not anymore. But it's nice to see, and all those names kind of bring back memories of Resnick and Halliday and all the Ken Thompsons and Dennis Ritchie and all those names kind of bring back a lot of memories. I'm sure anybody who's done computer science would remember all of these being discussed. So thank you. It was really nice, and for taking out the time as well. I know you just traveled back to India. You made time for this. It's been really nice. Amit sir, fantastic. Thank you for taking out the time. I know you've been keeping really busy, but I think it was really nice of you to come and join us for this session. To everybody else who signed in as well, despite it being a long weekend, we try to keep the kind of pattern going, and we didn't want to change it to another week because it just stays on that pattern. So it's a long weekend. Good Friday is a holiday for a lot of people, Saturday and then Sunday. So I think that was there, but we still had a lot of people joining. This will be available on the YouTube channel for everybody to come back and view it later. If I may say, I think please do join your local, I think, chapters. We are 7 that are registered, working together as BITOSA Global. There is a lot of other informal groups everywhere. So there is quite a few of them in the US, quite a few of them in India. So the chapters we all work together are Bangalore, Pune, Gujarat, Rajasthan, Delhi, Kolkata, and the Silicon Valley. So these chapters we work together, but there are also other groups. There is one in Hyderabad. There is, of course, in the US, there is the DC, there is a group. Chicago, there is a group. Then there's one in Seattle, one in Toronto. So lots of groups, and our effort has been to bring our alumni together. So I think we can get some fantastic insights, talk to each other, learn from each other. I'm sure it's, and the one thing I think that's common is everybody is willing to help. As soon as we say you are from BIT, I think the bond is established, and it's fantastic. So it's great being part of this network and trying to do this for everyone, and continuing to do this. So we'll continue to do this every 2 months, and we look forward to seeing you again here. If you are not very familiar with the website, please do register on bitosaglobal.org to stay updated. There's a lot of chapter-wise activities also that happen, which also gets published. And even if it is in a smaller group, so do try to find out if there is a group in your neighborhood or in your city or in your area, and please do join. And that will be my sincere request. Finally, what we make out of it is dependent on everybody coming together. I cannot really do much, or each one of us alone cannot do much. It's for us to come together and make this happen. I think we are a pretty cool kind of college, unlike the IITs, which are, I consider them a little too serious. We are a fun college, so we should continue that fun in our alumni activities too. So yeah, I think please stay connected and keep sharing stories, and we'll continue to bring stories and people as we connect with them and as we meet them. So it's been a fun journey. So thank you, Rama sir, once again, and Amit sir and Vineet, and thank you everyone for joining. Have a good, pleasant remaining Saturday and Sunday tomorrow, and please do take care. We'll see you again in a couple of months.
Thanks everyone for making time, and Vineet and Ramesh for arranging this, and also Amit for bringing back so many fond memories. Much appreciated all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks everyone.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
guys. Good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.